Hello, everybody. Dr. F. Scott Field here, and I'd like to introduce you to our newest sponsor. The NPTE Final Frontier is the review course that I wish was around when I took the board exam. For those of you who know my story, it took me a handful of times to pass that exam, and quite frankly, I really wish I had an exam review course around, just like the NPTE Final Frontier. Check out their website, npteff.com, and use the code HET at checkout for 10% off to all of our listeners and fans. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Healthcare Education Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. F. Scott Field. I'm bringing back an old host of ours, Dr. Stephanie Wyrock. Good to have you back, Steph.
Hey, everyone. Long time no talk. So happy to be back, Scott.
It's always good, when we get to reconnect, because I always love to see what people are up to and what they're doing. And this is a cool little category that we don't get to talk about too often. So this will be a neat little episode that Stephanie brought to our attention, and I'm glad she did. And like I said, I'm glad to have her back. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit to an amazing guest, Sidni Kast. Sidni, tell us a little bit about your academic journey and how it's led you to where you're at today.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Sidni Kast, and I'm currently a student at the University of North Dakota studying physical therapy. And my journey is a little bit kind of all over the place, because if you asked me when I was 14 what I wanted to be, it wasn't a physical therapist. It was actually an orthodontist. And that journey sort of shifted once I got into college and really started looking into those different outlets of what I was truly passionate about. And physical therapy is something that really struck a chord with me, because I knew I loved physical activity growing up. I was always in sports. And then once I was in school, just the human anatomy and how it all kind of correlates to one another really, really stuck with me. And I was always like, oh, I don't know. I already told everyone I want to go into dentistry. Like, I can't switch. But once I did, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, because I knew it was something I was so passionate about. And I actually did my undergrad at Minot State University. That's my hometown, and my dad is a professor there. So for money purposes, super awesome, but also for experiences, just the different atmospheres and environments I was allowed to be in within my hometown were astronomical. And then I took 2 years off. I worked as a waitress and earned some money so I could afford graduate school, and applied to the University of North Dakota and the University of Mary in Bismarck, and got accepted to both right away. So that was really awesome to kind of have that validation of, yes, this is what I'm supposed to go into. And ever since then, going to the University of North Dakota has been a dream, and I've loved every second of it.
Yeah. One of the reasons we wanted to bring Sidni on our podcast specifically, as you heard, she's a physical therapy student, but she's also the current Miss North Dakota. So she'll be competing in Miss America in January or December?
In December.
And I don't know if many of you know this about me, but back in the day, I also competed in Miss North Dakota. And so I'm very well connected with some of the people that run that pageant. And when Sidni ended up winning, somebody had reached out to me and had suggested that I reach out to Sidni because she was a physical therapy student. So we chatted a little bit, and she told me about her platform, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But in Miss North Dakota and the Miss America system, every candidate has to have a certain platform that they basically are the face of, and they become a public speaker to raise awareness on an issue. And Sidni's platform is on movement and how the body is interconnected. And she'll explain it a little bit better. But as many of you know, I'm a APTA advocate. And this is something that APTA has really been emphasizing, is how do we get the public to understand what we do as physical therapists? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is an awesome opportunity for APTA to have a partner who has a national platform to speak on this. So Sidni, can you just tell us first a little bit about your platform, and then maybe tell us a little bit about the Miss North Dakota pageant and what made you decide to compete?
Yes, absolutely. So the one body movement, that's what I call it, is all about how mind, body, and spirit, they're all connected, and how one can directly affect the other. And the reason I kind of got struck on this as my kind of final endpoint of what I wanted to present to others is I used to just do ending the stigma on mental illness, which is something I'm also a huge advocate for, but being able to involve what I'm going into the like my future for, and involving physical therapy was something that like really struck deep with me, and was I could relay that information to people without hesitation. It was just natural to me. So that's really what that's all about. And obviously we can get more into it, but with the Miss North Dakota organization, I will tell anyone that I'm the furthest thing from a pageant girl, because I grew up and I play in the dirt. I'm the tomboy. And when I started competing, I actually did what was called a festival title. And once you learn more about the organization, it makes more sense. But a festival title is something that is not, you don't have to run for Miss North Dakota, because to run for Miss North Dakota, you have to win a local, or as I like to refer to it, regionals in basketball to get to state. And when I did that, I was honestly persuaded into doing Miss North Dakota. And what really persuaded me to continue on that journey was the scholarship and the opportunity to perform. I've always loved performing, musical arts, theater, choir, and I hadn't been able to once I had graduated high school. So those two things really brought me towards running for Miss North Dakota. And I did it my first year, ended up getting top 10. First time ever doing anything like that. And yeah, I was like, okay, so I guess I'm not too far off of what they're looking for. And then that fall, I started physical therapy school, and I was like, I don't know, that's a lot of commitment and time consuming. And I mean, physical therapy school alone is, we all know, not too easy the first year. And it took a lot of thought, but at the end of the day, I told myself, I get to be a physical therapist the rest of my life. I will only get to be Miss North Dakota 1 year if given that opportunity. So I ran with it. And, the biggest difference I made between my first year and my second year of running was I was truly 100% my genuine self. And I will tell anyone that joins the Miss America organization, that is how you will be successful in that aspect, not only in that organization, but in life, as if you are truly 100% yourself. And so I'm very thankful for the whole turn of events that brought me here.
Yeah, I mean, that is not the most direct path. There's a lot to unpack there. But first off, I just want to say, it's never too late to switch and change paths. I was an English major, then I became a physical therapist. Now I'm in academia. It was not a straight and narrow. So you can always change your mind and what you want to be. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So don't worry about that. But yeah, you've got this great opportunity and you're running with it. But tell us a little bit about, that work-life balance type situation with school and Miss America stuff. How much school do you have left? How's it going? Tell us a little bit about just your experience in general with balancing that stuff.
So I actually just finished my finals last week, and I got my white coat, which was probably, one of the coolest experiences. It's just that nice affirmation that I did this. But within the last probably year, I've really worked on managing my time, and not only managing it, but knowing when to take breaks. I think a lot of people their first year in PT school will just study, and that's awesome. It's so good to know every last bit of material. But if you if you run yourself dry in that first year, it's really hard to bounce back. And you can see that in some of my classmates, that they're exhausted, which I'm exhausted too. But I think a part of the journey is the break when you need it. So definitely knowing when you need those breaks. Something in this last year I've used as my breaks is when I go to the gym. That's my best kind of relief. It's my hour off. I can turn on music. What's school? That's that. But obviously as a physical therapist, when you're at the gym, you're kind of studying in that aspect of, okay, biomechanics, this is how that works. But another thing that has truly helped me along this whole path, and especially since the summer of being crowned in the middle of a semester, my friends have been nothing short of perfect in regards to sending me notes or filling me in. Oh yeah, we do have a quiz tomorrow. We should study for that. those sort of things. So always leaning on that support system is something I am so grateful for. And I tell them just about every day, I'm like, I don't think I could have done it without you guys, because they truly have helped me so much. But I think that's something in the real world that we also have to be able to rely on people like that surround us. And it's something I've definitely grown to understand.
I think the thing that is really awesome about this situation that you're in is the fact that your faculty have been so supportive. I think we've heard a lot on this podcast with other guests that we've talked to, and just our experiences as clinicians is that sometimes that supportive environment, when you have other things going on in your life, may not necessarily be as optimal as a person would like. And so I really want to commend the staff at UND for allowing you to do both of these opportunities. And my understanding from us talking previously, Sidni, is that you guys are kind of switching curriculum. So do you have any insight onto kind of how the differences in the curriculum will be and kind of what your year will look like as Miss North Dakota and as a physical therapy student?
So I will tell you, the day after I won Miss North Dakota, I remember I had to call the head of our program. Her name is Cindy Flom. And I remember I was so nervous for that phone call because I was like, oh no, what's she gonna say? And I called her, and the first thing she said, is this Sidni Kast, or should I say the new Miss North Dakota? And I was like, oh, thank goodness. Because I truly was nervous, because I know how time consuming both of these things are. But again, as you said, the support that they have given me and the just ongoing, like, they're happy for me in this aspect, and they're not having it weighed down on me is so awesome. But also just like how they're willing to work with me as long as I communicate with them. And I plan to do that. That's probably going to be my biggest learning curve for the years. Just always communicate, always follow up, whatever it is, just know you're keeping up with it. But as you said, our curriculum is changing, and that is something super awesome for the program, because I believe UND has had the same curriculum for quite a while, and they're looking to make it more accessible and more adapt to the students that are coming in, which is awesome. I've loved my curriculum that I'm in, but change is never a bad thing, so to speak. But as far as this next year, we will stay in the same curriculum. My class will be grandfathered in, which is why I am actually unable to defer a year, because it all gets sort of mixed up. But I know what they're doing is good for the program, and I'm excited to see the changes that they do make.
Yeah, so I think one of the main takeaways that I got from that is that if it's worth doing, it's worth putting the time in to have two major, maybe even conflicting things going on in your life at the same time, right? Physical therapy school seems like it's something you want to do and it's something that's worth it. Miss North Dakota seems like something you want to do, something that's worth it. You're going to have to just grit through it and push through if you truly want to do both, and it can be done. Obviously, you're living proof, right? So let's talk a little bit now about the next step for you and how you want to talk a little bit more about movement in general, because you brought up something earlier that is pretty neat too, is the mental health aspect of things, right? And there's a lot of research out there that shows exercise is good for mental health, right? So that all kind of comes together, like you said, with mind, body, and soul. So tell us a little bit about your platform and how you kind of want to spread the word about movement and what's to come in the future on that platform.
Yes. So the cool part about being in school is when I am sitting in class, if there's something I hear that I'm like, oh, I should definitely talk about this when I am speaking to children across the state, or not even children, people of all ages. And the way I really want, and I've thought about this a few times, is when I go to a school, for instance, I want to bring, I want to involve them, I want to make them feel a part of the presentation. My goal is to, have 4 volunteers come up, and each volunteer is like the tire on a car. And when you're driving a car, if one tire goes flat, the whole vehicle won't move, right? So in my mind, each tire represents something different. One is your physical health, one is your mental health, maybe your social health, and then your school work life, right? So, all those things have to be at the same level, and you have to have the same attention given to them if we want the vehicle to drive forward. But the big difference between a car and your human body is you can replace a car. You can replace the tires. You have spare tires. The human body, you're only given one. And that's how I want to relate it to people, is that we have to invest in each aspect of our lives if we want to keep that vehicle moving forward.
I think that a lot of the things that you're talking about are very relevant to what you will end up talking about to patients as well when you become a physical therapist. Scott and you have been Scott had talked about that exercise is helpful in mental health, but mental health also affects how a person can heal. And so if you're not able to cope with the certain situation that you're given, making sure that we're providing that ability for people to be in a healing environment so that they can heal is extremely important. And so I'm super excited about the fact that you're talking about this. What is kind of your plan as far as teaching this? I know that a lot of times Miss North Dakota focuses on kids, but teaching this specifically to kids, and then how do you plan to change your message, focusing more on adults or people who aren't children?
Yes. So when talking to adults and people older generations, the biggest thing I really want to relay is that people have to take care of themselves before they can take care of others, and not in a selfish sense. But if your glass is empty, you can't fill up another cup, so to speak. And so teaching that they have to take care of themselves, whether it's their diet, just taking a 10-minute walk, things like that will automatically have a direct correlation to their overall quality of life. And being able to express that, whether it's one-on-one conversations or over the phone or Zoom calls, I really want to be able to reach all generations when it comes to this message.
Yeah, that's a great outlook on it, and I think a great take. And most of us, our audience, whether they be professors or students in the healthcare realm, know what a program looks like as far as going through maybe PT school or whatever it may be. Give us an outlook on your calendar now for the next year. What does it look like for Miss North Dakota? What are some of the things you have scheduled and planned? What does that kind of look like?
Yes. So in school, I will be in the classroom this year. We have one-week clinical that happens at the end of this second year, but mainly it's, cardiopulm, lifespan, manual 2, those sort of classes. And it'll be nice because our schedule is a little, less demanding than it was the first year, obviously with anatomy and neuro and all those things. It's a lot more hands-on and very, kind of learn as you go, and not as much studying, so to speak. So that really helps. And also, as Miss North Dakota, my big things that are coming up is I go to Dallas, Texas in August. That's our Miss America orientation, but it's also the Miss America Outstanding Teen competition. So we'll get to go there and support our teen and kind of get to meet our entire class of women that we'll compete against in December. Like I said, December we'll have that, but between August and December, hopefully just different events, whether it's visiting schools or businesses. Basically, it's a combination of preparing for Miss America, but also getting the message out there. And then once spring hits, whether I'm Miss America or not, which is just crazy to even consider that being a possibility.
It's happened before.
It's happened before, but if I do not become Miss America, the North Dakota school tour begins. And I've already had that discussion with my professors at school, and we've figured out a schedule that is going to work for both of us, whether it be me zooming into a class while I'm not while I'm driving, if I'm in the passenger seat of someone else driving, or if I'm in another city, I'll be able to communicate with either my classmates or professors on the classes I miss. So again, that communication thing has been key in this whole process, but that spring will be kind of my big moment of getting to talk to schools and really spreading my message across the state. And then in June, that's when Miss North Dakota happens and I have to give up the crown.
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to have a huge audience and following after this podcast. That's for sure. I know that 300,000 physical therapists across the nation will be cheering for you. And what, about 40,000 PTAs or so. So you've got some heavy background. You've got some people that are excited for you for sure.
What are you most excited about for Miss America?
Probably just getting to meet all of the different candidates. I mean, at what point in your life do you get to say, I know 50 people from all across our country? That is not only an amazing opportunity to meet other people and get different perspectives, but also from a networking standpoint, that I'll have connections for the rest of my life. And that is something I'm so grateful for, because it opens so many doors. And it's similar to, I mean, you saying that about all the physical therapists and PTAs listening to this. It is such a great networking opportunity that not everyone has that opportunity, in whether it's in PT or in different professional programs. It's something I'm truly grateful for.
Yeah, I like to tell my students, it's cliche, but your network equals your net worth, right? And it's true, because I tell them, look, you should have been networking already up to this point, but if you haven't, today's the first day to start. You've got to get going, because your network becomes so crucial to who you are and what you do in the future. It's one of those skills that, people really have to work at it. And like you said, you're getting an amazing opportunity to grow your network, by 50-fold. So that's an amazing opportunity. And like I said, I can't wait to see how it all turns out. Tell me a little bit about, once you finish school, you're going to become a physical therapist. Do you have any idea what setting you want to work in, or what you want to pursue after you graduate?
So what got me interested in physical therapy personally was sports therapy. And obviously, that's something I would love to further seek information on through my clinicals. But I think that's a big thing to consider, is you have to go through those clinicals before you make that final decision. And I've only done 1-week clinicals, and I've already seen things I like, things I don't like. And I can't even imagine how exponentially that will change once I do 9-week clinicals, and then, bigger things like that. So obviously, sports therapy is something I'm really interested in, but also if I could possibly look more into women's health, I would love that as well, I'm sure. But it really depends on those clinical experiences and getting, kind of that one-on-one experience that you don't always see in the classroom.
Yeah, I think that that's a really important point for our students that do listen to this podcast, because as a clinical instructor myself, I do hear a lot of students talk about how they have been interested in one type of physical therapy, and whoever their clinical instructor has been has definitely impacted their decision to pursue or not pursue that specific area. So I think that that's an important point. You've got all this stuff going on, Sidni. I'm sure a lot of people that are listening right now are asking, like, oh my gosh, how is she going to do this? What is your advice to people who are trying to kind of manage that work-life balance or that school life balance? What type of advice would you give to other PT students that maybe are a little overwhelmed with their life right now?
My best piece of advice would be time management. And I have been someone that has failed at that before. I learned through failure, and I think that's not the best way to do it. But when I did my undergrad, I remember pulling all-nighters and saying no to friends, like wanting to hang out, because I was like, I have to study. I cannot lose focus on this. And it got to the point where the quality of my studying was nothing compared to the quantity. And as we know, it's always quality should be greater than quantity. So that's my biggest piece of advice: time management and finding time for things outside of school that you enjoy. Because if all you're doing is something that is taking all your brain power and making you groggy and miserable, then is it really worth it? And so yeah, that I know that's kind of cut and dry, like, oh, just learn how to manage your time, but focusing on what makes you happy outside of school, but also remember why you're there. And it's not to be miserable. It's to learn, enjoy what you love doing, and to honestly just, don't lose focus on yourself in the process.
Yeah, I think there was an underlying theme tonight of being true to yourself and being authentic and I think even burning yourself out at times, right? We don't want to do that either. So I think you have to know yourself and be self-aware enough to know when you need to take those breaks, how you can find joy still, how you can still do the things you love and yet take care of your responsibilities too. So I think this was a really great episode overall. I think this is a great time to ask you our final question that we ask all of our guests. If you could change one aspect of higher education, whether it be DPT or otherwise, what aspect would you change and how would you change it?
Oh, that is a tough question.
This might be your final question for Miss America, Sidni.
I know. Oh my gosh. I got to start preparing.
Yeah, right.
What I would change about higher education, it might be cliche, but I would change the cost. And, it's something that a lot of people in my generation specifically don't realize the cost of education until they're in it or out of it. And, it might not be an educator's ability to change that, but it is something that debt is a huge issue in our nation. And no one really knows about it until they're in it. When I got into college, I'm so thankful for my parents because they educated me on, hey, if you take a loan out, that's going to build. So being able to, whether it's educate people more on how expensive college is or lowering costs of college, that is something I would change.
Number one most given answer. So you are right on track.
I swear I didn't hear it.
No, that's okay. It's true. And that is why we ask it, because if it becomes that big of an issue, then it's something we need to address. It is the truth.
And it does, the cost of education, especially in PT, in all healthcare fields really, but in PT specifically for us, it does inhibit people to come into this profession. And when you have that, then you can't build a diverse workforce. And that's something that we've really been pushing. So cost is definitely something that we need to look forward to.
Yeah. And it's also, that's another reason I do the Miss America organization, because my schooling is about paid for now. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. That was one of the reasons that I did Miss America and Miss North Dakota way back in the day. Long time ago, over 10 years ago now. The last year I wasn't as brave as you. I didn't compete when I was in PT school. I don't think I could have done it. You're way farther ahead than I was. Sidni.
I don't know if brave is the word I would use. It was just, yeah.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people are really interested in you and in your platform and kind of your experience. So if people do want to reach out to you, Sidni, where can they find you online and how can they contact you?
Yes. So my Instagram is just my name spelled straight through, Sidni Kast, SIDNI KAST. It's not spelt wrong. I swear. It's just what my mom wanted to do when she had me. And then on Facebook, you can find me at Sidni Kast, Miss North Dakota. That's my official page, but also we have a Miss North Dakota website that's out there. I think it's just missnorthdakota.com.
Awesome.
Yeah, right. And always open to more appearances, more podcasts, whatever it is. I'm just really excited to kind of have as many opportunities as possible this year.
Well, thank you so much, Sidni, for joining us on the podcast and getting me out of a little bit of my podcast retirement here. It was very fun talking to you. And if you guys do have any questions, feel free to reach out to Sidni. She'd be happy to answer you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Absolutely. Good luck. And we will be following you.